Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, I did sort of give a heads up on this, saying that we'd be hitting the ground running with all the stories now that I am finally back after my enforced week off. And one of the ones I said I was doing, I'd be doing an interview with Lesley Roberts, good friend of the channel, good friend of mine, and a woman who is, I consider, a very brave, hard-working woman who's standing up for truth, standing up for what is right, standing up for what is morally right in this country against overwhelming odds of basically a totalitarian state that is determined that the truth shall not come out. And of course, on this channel, we always say the truth will always come out because we are many and they are few. And in order to help this truth come out, may I ask that you hit that subscribe button and press like on the video. We need Lesley to get everything she can. And so, it's these messages that are so important because without the bravery of Lesley, these things would just be swept under the carpet. They'd never be heard of again. And so, without further ado, I'm just going to go straight in, and here is the interview with Lesley. We'll go straight into it. I will just point out there is a bit towards the end, about 2/3 of the way through, where the sound quality just jumps for a little while. There was an issue with Zoom. We had to sort of stop and then restart, and then just a sound issue. So please just ignore that. But do hit subscribe, do hit like, and please enjoy the video. Here goes. Yeah. So, hi, Lesley. How are you? It's been a long time since we've talked, and with various things that have happened. So, how are you and yourself now?
Yeah, I'm fine, David. Thank you. Yourself?
Well, not in hospital any longer, so that is a definite plus. And I'm off the morphine now. I don't know whether to be pleased or not because the morphine's lovely, let me tell you. But I've come off that now because I was turning into an old man. I take the morphine, then I sit down. I'll be putting the telly on. I was asleep.
Aye.
But
It's
you would
not a drug
expect
you
that.
want to stay on full
It's
time.
not. I know. I took it until the pain in the shoulders went. As soon as I was off it, and I was fine. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about because it has been so long since we've discussed anything.
Yep.
So I know that there's this ongoing police inquiry that's moved along somewhat since last we spoke. We've sort of conversed, as it were, through sort of text means, but obviously not done a discussion. So why don't you begin? Let us know where we are with the police inquiry. Obviously, can't give details, but if you can give us like a sort of a vague overview of what is going, it's up to you. Please go ahead and tell everyone where we are.
Well, as you know, both myself and Roger Livermore of NHS ASAP and Rab Wilson attended Cowcaddon's police office back in March the 1st of this year to report what we deemed to be corporate homicide regarding what was going on during COVID-19.
Yeah.
Since then, I've been preparing quite a lot of documents, vast amount of documents is probably a better way of putting it, towards the inquiry, which I will not go into the specifics of. However, what I will tell you and what has been in the paper, so I'm not giving you any information that is not already out there, it surrounds certain protocols regarding risk assessments, DNA, CPR, and the use of unsafe masks, which you and I have went into in great
Which we've
detail.
talked about before, yeah.
I've given you all the guidance, all the law regarding that, and where they did not fit into the actual remit of being PPE. They were just a medical, how would you describe a surgical mask? They were used specifically, they were supposed to be used specifically for surgeons for splashes and stuff. They were never, ever designed to be used in a global pandemic when it was an airborne infection.
Yeah,
an airborne virus.
There was no viral safety.
No, there was nothing. And anyone who was working with patients within a specific distance required to have an FFP3 mask, which would have protected them fully from infectious aerosols. And this government chose not to give us the masks that we legally required by law to work in line with Health and Safety at Work Act 1974.
I'm presuming that was probably on a cost basis, wasn't it? Because I imagine these masks would be a lot more than these little papery things, wouldn't they?
Well, I would presume so. However, as you and I have spoke about and agreed before, how do you possibly put the price of a life?
There is no price, that's right.
There is no price, and that was my argument throughout it as being the health and safety rep on site, was that these masks were legally required and morally required to protect the workforce, and yet they are still saying that these masks are adequate. How they come to such a conclusion is anyone's guess, given the evidence that's absolutely out there. They're continuing.
It's incontrovertible now, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's not just you saying that. There's been studies left, right, and centre, and it is accepted fact, basically.
Yeah. And yet the government are still saying, and the health board are still saying, that that is the correct masks. I suppose they've got to say that now, or they're going to be legally sued. But they should be sued.
Yeah, they can't reverse that decision now. No.
I mean, they were continually saying that Scottish government guidance, and I was continually, as the rep, saying, doesn't matter what Scottish government guidance said. The law was in place, which protected the workers, but the law throughout COVID was simply deflected for this Scottish government nonsensical guidance that created death traps for the workforce. So that's where the evidence lies for the police inquiry. We have now taken that forward. It's going now to, they're waiting on me signing it off. And once I've signed it off, it will be going to the Crown. And it has 46 pieces of productions that I have given them that they have taken forward to the Crown.
Yeah, you mentioned in something we've sort of discussed, not verbally, just sort of through text, as it were, that they actually came and took a load of the actual physical evidence that you were provided. They've actually taken that away now, and they're examining that, aren't they?
Well, it's a word called seized, and it's seized. A jargon word more than basically. They never came to me and seized that. I gave it through productions, through emails, because all of this information was all done through emails during COVID. So there was no requirement to come to me and seize it.
Right, so it's all digital.
You know what I mean? What they did was seized it through the emails.
Yeah.
But that's more of a jargon word, as in.
Yeah, but it's in their. But they have that now. It's in their possession. They can do full examination on it. Yeah.
Yeah, they do.
That's good. That's good. So the other thing is we got the inquiry going on, the London inquiry. It tends to be at the moment. And that's throwing up some very weird stuff, isn't it? You've got a, how can we put this? Some evidence is, some people are saying one thing, some people are saying another thing. There's nobody really making agreement. I mean, have you been following the inquiry?
To be honest, I have been more focused in trying to get the police inquiry stuff out. I have been basically working towards the Scottish inquiry here. What happened with that was when I put in my evidence back last year, the UK inquiry turned me down because they were saying that what I was putting to them was a devolved issue. So they referred me back to the Scottish inquiry. Right. So then when I put it into the Scottish inquiry, they turned me down for core participant status. So I could not understand why, and I continued to argue with them regarding what they deemed to meet terms of reference for core participant status. And as they were saying that you had to be a group of people to meet core participant status. However, I was the health and safety rep. I was the equality and diversity rep for Unite the Union GDC. Therefore, I was acting for members. So therefore, I was
bringing to
them, yes, collective issues such as the face masks, what was going on with that, other issues regarding unsafe goggles, all the issues, 22 grievances that were brought partially by me, but me as the rep. So therefore, I was acting as their representative. So I was acting for a group. So I then had to join a group. Well, a group approached me called the Coalition Workers and asked me to come on board as core participant status. So I was working with them. I'm in the process of giving them vast evidence that they can take forward. And the lawyer was corresponding with me, because as core participant status, you are then given a lawyer. So the lawyer was basically working with me to decide when they were better putting me on the stand. So they had put together specifics regarding the various modules and put to me what was my thoughts and me being deemed as being appropriate that I was put on the stand at these specific modules. However, I agreed to that. However, out of the blue, about 10 days ago, I got an email from one of the solicitors at the inquiry requesting that the it's not QC, it's now KC.
KC's now, It still confuses me on some of these things.
No, absolutely. Could come to Greenock to meet with me. Now, I had never heard of this ever, that the KC and two of the solicitors for the inquiry want to come to Greenock next week to meet with me, and they are looking at putting me on the stand in October to discuss. Yeah, so it's quite big that the KC, the main KC,
the KC coming to you,
is coming to me. They are booking a room
that's
in Greenock. And two of the solicitors are coming down to meet me in Greenock, I think a week tomorrow. Now, I then contacted the solicitor for the coalition group, and I believe she's coming as well. So it's going
to be a busy day.
It's going to be a busy day, yeah.
2 packets of biscuits.
So she's coming as well. So, but it is quite unheard of that the KC would actually take the time out to come to Greenock to meet with someone.
It gets the impression there then they've seen what you're offering as evidence and what you're going to say, and they're taking it extremely seriously.
But they turned me down. They rejected me.
Initially.
I put in that evidence back last year. They then wrote to me inviting me to apply for core participant status. I then followed their terms of reference to the point, filled out the forms that they had sent me on top of the 130-page statement that I'd already submitted. And they then rejected me for that. So if they rejected me, it's quite a turnaround that they want to meet with me.
Because I remember we've talked before, and I remember you saying about them rejecting. So, that is like it's a complete 180. But they've gone not just from rejecting you to now sort of almost coming down to beg you to be on there.
I don't understand. I do not understand the rationale for the way they're acting. I have been absolutely open and transparent and saying that I do not believe that any inquiry that would turn down the only rep in GGC who has raised 22 grievances, and I'm now at something like 72 complaints against all the other public bodies, SPSO, all of these bodies who just simply, in my opinion, almost rolled over and allowed the public sector to do as they wished. So I don't understand the absolute turnaround of this.
Maybe they've read the room. They've seen public opinion, and they've said, actually, this is what we need to do. It might have been that because of the weakening of the SNP in general, they felt more confident in being able to do it. There's so many. We can't say that that's there, obviously, but there's a lot of different factors in play. That could be any of them, really, couldn't it?
You're absolutely correct. I mean, no, I'm saying this in jest, and I would like all your readers to listen to this in jest.
Mm.
I'm waiting to see with great anticipation if they come down in a camper van.
Hey, that'd be grand.
But
Can't get
that
a
is
hotel. If only
that
they
is,
knew where there was a camper van.
that is trying to make light of a
I
very. I
know.
mean,
Oh
no
no, it's
one
a very
knows.
serious. Yeah, it's a
You
very
know, it's
serious
a
decision.
very, very serious issue, and no
Yeah.
one has taken the issues probably as far as I have. And I think that if you don't put some light into it at this stage, I think that it does affect your mental health at this stage.
Yeah.
So let's try and put some.
Let's put a good
Let's
spin.
try and
A bit
put
of humour.
some humour into it.
Yeah. Yeah. Be interesting to know. Once they've come down, will you be happy to come back on and not obviously discuss the details, but sort of let us know how that meeting went?
I will. Yes,
Obviously,
absolutely.
you can't talk details. Completely agree, understand. But we can get like an air of, were you happy with the meeting? Were you satisfied with what the outcome of that meeting was? That kind of thing.
I will be very interested. I mean, throughout my time as a rep and throughout various situations, I have always been appalled that families and people are literally gagged, using that word, using whatever tools they can to silence people. I will be very interested to hear if anyone tries to say, well, you're going on the stand, but you now cannot speak to the media, you cannot do this, you cannot do that. And at that point, the game will be a bogey. I will not go onto the stand, and I will continue to speak to yourself and the media.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we'll see what
Because
the outcome is.
I also think that the Public Disclosures Act comes into force here, 1998, because you have got Section 43 within that Pacific Act, which, if you feel that the public is at risk and you feel that that is bigger than anything else, you have got the right legally to speak out. But the problem in Scotland is that you don't really have a country that works in line with the law. In my opinion, it's a totalitarianism state that we are now in. We cannot speak out.
You see that in a lot of the videos I do. You see that it is going that way, that it is a controlled state in a lot of not just in the NHS, in a lot of different fields. Yeah.
In public sector, I mean, I don't believe that. I believe that health is something that absolutely requires the legal duty of care and the legal duty of candour. And when you lie to patients, when you lie to their families, you are breaching that law. Yeah. And yet all of these self-deemed omnipotents are all still in a job.
Yeah.
And
listen, it's not just law, it's the moral and ethical point as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, I know that there is a law, but I think morally and ethically, you've got to be able to look in that mirror in the morning and say, I haven't harmed someone. I haven't done an awful thing.
Yeah. And I mean, if you even look, and I know I'm slightly going off track here, and I apologise for that. However, if you look at a case that was in the Daily Record yesterday, a woman called Teresa Smith, whose baby died in the QE, the article was saying that she is not allowed to discuss her dead child with anyone.
Yes, I saw that. I did see that, yeah.
And that leads you to think she couldn't even speak out. Paul O'Kane had to, I don't know what, Paul O'Kane spoke out about it due to his concerns about what's going on. Now, if you get to the point where you've got Louise Lawrence, they were paying someone to watch her messages on Facebook or whatever to report back. You've got another family who can't discuss their dead child. You've got me as a rep listening into my calls to challenge my clinical role when I was working as a rep. They have just paid me out for that, by the way. They paid me the compensation money. Good. So by inquest, they're basically saying, we did wrong, and yet they're still of the view they didn't, so why are they paying me out? So you need You need health to be completely open and transparent. And in Scotland, you don't have that.
No, no. Move. There is something I know that the sad issue of your mother. Now, what was the outcome of that? You had something there. Did they ever sort of finish dealing with that with you?
Well, what happens with my mum was mum took ill during COVID. She had a power of attorney. I didn't know she had a power of attorney. And there was all sorts of issues with the power of attorney.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the upshot of it was when my mother was confused in 2019, funds were removed from her account, either by herself, who was really confused, or whatever way they chose to do it, and was gifted to the power of attorney's children. Now, you're talking about £80,000. Not eight, but 80.
Holy shit.
But no one did anything about it. No one. I was at the door of the OPG, the Mental Welfare Commission, the Legal Complaints Commission. No one did anything about it. Now, the SPSO have just come back, and I don't trust them either, because they pointed out points of concern, but wouldn't act on them. So their concern was that there was no minutes taken at meetings with the local authority. The local authority, whilst I was fighting for my dying mother's rights, they called me, "Stop acting like a little tiger."
Mm-hmm.
Now, you wouldn't say that to anyone, but you certainly would not say that to a daughter who's fighting for her dying mother's rights.
No.
But they did. They did not.
It's very patronising, if I may just interrupt there. It sounds very patronising from them.
Sexual
Oh,
discrimination.
aren't you a little tiger? It's like treating you like a child, isn't it?
Well, I believe it's sexual discrimination, because if it was yourself in a meeting with another male, would he say to you, "Stop
They
being a
wouldn't
wee
call me a
tiger"?
little tiger. No, no.
You know, and I believe that it's sexual discrimination, but that person has now went on to greater things and now has been promoted within the health service. So there was certain things that happened. I mean, my mother's power of attorney put her into a care home and wouldn't tell me where my own mother was, because his lawyer felt that I was being too critical of him. Now, if being too critical of him was reporting them to the police for the removal of £80,000 of my mother's money, the changing of her will twice within a month and only 9 days before she was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, not questioning the hospital about appalling care, and then putting her into a care home, emptying her house, not giving her any of her own items, and basically that was allowed to go on. Now, the care home, I found out where my mum was because he put her into the same care home as my partner's mother is in. Now, had that not been the case, I might never have found out where my mother was. I might never have saw her again. But my mother died, not being allowed to see friends, family, not being allowed to get cards, not being allowed to get letters. Mum was 4 stone 4 when she died. So I am now calling.
It's horrendous.
It's for a Letty's law, which should be put in place following the proposals that I have put up. So I had a meeting yesterday with the Scottish Assembly to discuss what my proposals were. And at the end of the meeting, they reverted back to guidance. And I was saying to them, well, okay, we're going on about Scottish Government guidance here again. Guidance is superseded. All guidance, process and protocol is superseded by law, by legislative and common law. Nothing takes precedence over that. But they continually revert back to this guidance. Guidance is exactly what the meaning of guidance is.
It's not law. Yeah.
You can't go to somebody and say, you know, you've broke guidance, you're going to jail. But that's what they were trying to do during COVID. You know, guidance was you can't leave your house, you can't do this, you can't do that. And the police were enforcing that. So I believe that the law matters more than any process, protocol, internal guidance, whatever. And I believe that there needs to be legislation, and they're updating the legislation as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And it was through that I actually approached them. But it was also through the Office of the Public Guardian and the Mental Welfare Commission advising me that this is the trajectory that I should take because of the gaps in the legislation that my mother was falling into. But I don't believe that I believe that the local authority would have acted quicker and, well, I hope they would have acted quicker and sooner and more professionally and more competent had it been someone that they didn't know. But it was me.
It was at the time when I was going to all these different organisations and literally begging for help. And they kept telling me that I was falling through all these gaps in the legislation. Mm-hmm. However, just basically before Mum died, the OPG and the Mental Welfare Commission said that it's cases like yours which showcase the need for better legislation. Mm-hmm. And at present, there's a legislative reform just now. So they encouraged me to put forward my proposals to the Mental Health Review, which I did last May. And they came back basically saying a lot of what I was saying, the need mm-hmm. for, more guidance, more oversight bodies. And I believe that there needs to be an oversight body which looks at the actions of all these public funded organisations, none of which seem to be working in line with the law, and basically can take them to task if they're not doing what they should be doing. Mm-hmm. So it's a lot of that that's within my proposals for a Letty's law.
Right. And that's something that's going to be taken forward. I mean, obviously, that's not going to be a quick process anyway. That's another entirely separate, long, drawn-out process for you. Yeah, but it's one you feel is important, isn't it?
You have to go with what your moral compass tells you. And I believe that we are in this world for a very short time. And I'm not an angel by any matter of means, and I've made mistakes like everybody else. However, if you feel that something is a miscarriage of justice, I believe that you should have the moral compass to challenge that. Yeah. If you have got the ability to do so. And that's what I have done throughout COVID, much to the detriment of my own life.
No, but you have highlighted, and I'm pretty sure that there'll be people out there who will have taken strength knowing that what's happened to them isn't alone. They're not alone, and that someone is standing up and shouting, about what's happened, which I think is why I think this is why you're given so much support. You see it all the time. I think that's wise, because there's a lot of people who agree with you that it's not right, but they've lacked either the knowledge or the ability to do what you've done. And that's it's a fact, because they just don't know what the situation is. You were involved at the pointy end. You knew. So well done. So well done to you, and thank you again. No, sorry,
to be honest, I'm not looking. I never was looking for anybody to thank me. Yes, I have destroyed my own life. I'm aware of that. Would I do it again? If I turn back the clock, I don't think I would do anything different. Mm-hmm. However, it's left me in a position where, I'm not in my job anymore because of asbestos in my lung through working in a hospital that was unsafe. Mm-hmm. I'm no longer doing my union role, but I am helping with other cases because I obviously was trained to do that. But I've lost my mum, I've now lost my home, I now live in a village in North Ayrshire, which is certainly not where I want to be.
No. Been an expensive journey in terms of your life, isn't it?
I feel as if my life is destroyed, yes.
Yeah. Oh dear, Lesley, it's the things we do. But I think you're very well supported, which is at least something you can take heart with. Now, there is something you said earlier, and it's about the was it the not here? It was on something else that we talked about earlier, which was about this ministerial code. And you said there was you were sort of running into a brick wall with that.
Oh, I mean that. Oh, if you didn't laugh, you'd cry. I believe that Nicola Sturgeon and Jane Freeman misled Parliament regarding mainly the masks and the safety of the workforce. That should have been paramount. That should have worked in line with the Health and Safety at Work Act 1974, and it never. So I decided to report them to ethical standards. Ethical standards came back saying they could not deal with it because they were ministers at the time, so it comes under the Ministerial Code of Conduct. So they guided me back to Hamza, the lovely First Minister, and he said that because they were no longer ministers, he did not deem it to fall under that remit. So I then went back to ethical standards and I said, okay, when you're in a position where someone has been a minister, they're no longer a minister, where do you go with that? And they said they didn't really know, to be honest, they did. And they guided me to report it to the political party. So I then put it all together again, spent days putting it all together again, and wrote to the SNP, who wrote back 2 sentences saying that it's a ministerial code of conduct issue. So I went back to the lovely First Minister and presented it to him again, and he's breached his timeframes and ignored me. You feel as if you
Mr. Integrity strikes again then, does he?
Absolutely. Okay. So I have now reported him as well for breaching the code of conduct by ignoring serious health and safety concerns.
There's a lot of this about. There's a lot of this about. You've got Ross Greer. He's up for it. He's getting code of conduct warning, isn't he, for not doing his job? There was another one there, and I was reading in the Herald. Can't think of his name. Another one going. You know, it's almost as like they want the power and the palaver, but they don't want to do the actual work.
Well, I reported Stuart McMillan as my local MSP for literally ignoring falsified documents used to suspend one of my members. And this was in relation to another contaminated water supply, Ravensbrück Hospital, and the death of a patient. Stuart did nothing about it. I then reported him to ethical standards. They said it wasn't an ethical standard issue, it was a presiding officer issue. So I then went to the presiding officer, another 3 days of my life well spent writing out the complaint, to find that the presiding officer said it wasn't it wasn't breach of the code either. So I then said to the lovely presiding officer, well-respected presiding officer, who are you then accountable to? And she advised me that she's not accountable to anyone. So if the presiding officer is not accountable to anyone, how does this work?
Nobody wants to take ownership of problems, do they? Success has many fathers. Failure is an orphan.
Yes. I mean, it just seems if they want to take the role on as an elected representative, they are acting for the electorate. We are not acting for them. They are representing us. The key is in the word. And I used to always say that as a union representative. The key is in the word representative. You are representing them. They are not representing you. But somehow that seems to have got lost as well. They just want to take this big salary, this big look at me, I can challenge, you know, petrol in the area is too dear. Yeah, we know, but a patient has died, a member of staff has been fitted up for the murder, and you don't want to deal with it, Stuart. And yet, presiding officer, nobody's fault. Let's sweep it all away, it didn't happen.
Yeah, you need a very big carpet, don't you? You need a big carpet and a big broom.
You would just really need to hope that carpet right went out of went down administration so that you could buy every single carpet. And I don't even think that that would hide the amount of things that are trying to be swept.
No.
Morally and ethically.
Oh, morally, they're all bankrupt, aren't they?
Yeah. Absolutely. But no matter where you go in this country, you are hitting a brick wall, especially with the public service. You're hitting a brick wall, and in my opinion, that reverts back to living in a dictatorship.
A
Almost.
totalitarian dictatorship. You're quite right.
That's
Although the
exactly
times,
how
I'm going to say the times they are a changing. We're 3 weeks away from Rutherglen, and if Labour win that, I think that'll be a shot across the. But no, I'm not a particular Labour fan, but I mean, I hate. Let's be honest. I hate all politicians. I think they're all. There's very few I'd want to sit and have dinner with. Put it that way.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think if Labour win it, it'd be a shot across the bow for the SNP, and I think it would be the breaching of the dam, and I think a lot will come out. And whoever gets in next is still not going to be any good. But at least if they're doing what they're doing without having to put everything through a lens of independence, they might, randomly, occasionally land on the right decision and do something right, even if it's just random. Who knows?
There's many stories that I could sit and tell you about the Labour group, who I have tried to involve in a number of things that I have brought to you here, and I have found that they are useless as well. However,
I have no doubts about that at all.
However, I feel that they are a better type of useless than the useless that are already there.
Different clowns, different circus, same show.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Lesley, we're going to have to round off there because we're going to get to the end there. But it's been an absolute joy hearing from you again. Very informative, of course. And the fight continues.
Yep.
I'm sure that
stay well,
everyone...
because we need good people on side.
Yeah. And I think everyone who's watching this will certainly put a comment down and wish you the best of luck and, give you strength to your elbow to fight these buggers all the way.
Thank you.
All right. Until we next meet, I'm going to say thank you very much and goodbye.
Take care. See you soon. Stay well.
Okay, will do. And there we go. As I say, this woman has worked so tirelessly for the truth to come out. So I would like to ask every single person who's watched this video to please do hit the subscribe, do hit the like, and definitely leave a comment. Give Lesley a sign that she's not alone, that her work is welcomed, her work is admired, her work is recognised for what it is. She really has, sacrificed. I don't think sacrificed is strong enough, but she's sacrificed a lot in her pursuit of this, and I think the very least we can do is stand by her shoulder to shoulder and show her that we appreciate everything she's doing. So I'll just stop there. It's not about me, it's about her. Thank you. Until next video, goodbye.